Okay, good morning. It is day 41 of these videos to talk about a day or thought in the life of schizophrenic. I had thought that I was going to discontinue these videos, but as it turns out, uh, that just made me feel like a terrorist. One, and it didn't seem like a good example to be setting for anybody, even if it's a small example, that I would be quiet because somebody terrorized me into silence. And so, in any event, the laser system that controls my bodily functions gave me a sneeze this morning as I was thinking about doing this video. So I've been blessed, as the sneezes mean you've been blessed. Okay, so I'm going to do a little intro here. You can skip ahead to about 3 minutes into this video because, or 3.5, because it takes me about 2.5 minutes. So it's starting at 1 minute. I came to the realization while writing my book that if I was going to describe myself to others, I would describe myself as a itty bitty writer who experiences schizophrenia. It is a reality to be experienced, and much of the experience can be chalked up to coming into contact with systems and operations that are modern or advanced. I am just one time semi activist. I am now a brain damaged author finishing a book on technology and society, psychological operations, and political surveillance. This book also encompasses some of my thought processes, which could have potentially gotten me targeted. This targeting is referred to as the targeted individual program by many others, including various groups that are out there fighting against this control system. Uh, I like to use schizophrenia, and in day 17 of these little videos that I make, I described exactly why I use the phrase schizophrenia more often than not than the targeted individual terminology, and so you can go back and listen to that, and I could repost it, I guess. But it has resulted in the targeting has resulted in my brain functioning in a schizophrenic manner, and so that's one reason why I use schizophrenia. I'm actually the recipient of organized political warfare, what NATO refers to as cognitive war, and what the chief of Indian intelligence refers to as neurostrike. That is the Chinese terminology called neurostrike weaponry as well. And this has given me a condition characteristic of schizophrenia, but it is more an experience with the classified or underworld section of democracy or global governance reality. So that is that, and I'm going to get into my little section here today. Uh, I was we were thinking about going to Paris next fall, uh, potentially as a after the Camino de Santiago. You'd like to take a trip to Paris. My mom and dad have never been to Paris, and I only went there when I was in my 20s and I had like no money. And not that I have a lot of money now, but I had like no money, and I was kind of depressed at that time, so it might be nice to get back to Paris and have a clear head and stuff. And so, yeah, it'll be cool to see Paris and with my mom and dad in particular because they've never seen it, so that'll be a quite a priceless trip to go on. And it made me think about Paris, and like we were thinking here the other night about with Donald Trump and everything, and like the Sieg Heil, and this potentially ushering in of some sort of weird fascism. Is this the beginning stages? Is there going to be? Is it going to move along or propel faster? Maybe even after he's gone, he's awakened some sort of beast in this country. In any event, I started thinking like I think I prefer anarchy to. I'm not an anarchist, but I think I prefer anarchy to fascism. And so I was thinking of like France. They have those little revolutions. Kind of, they're always on the brink of revolution in France. And I was thinking, man, I think I prefer that to what we have going on here. And I don't think you can do that kind of thing here. I think if you did those kind of brink of revolutions here, it would just awaken the fascist beast that lies sleeping here. Not doesn't really sleep, rarely does it. But I think if you did those kind of things, it would result in the fascist fervor getting awakened and martialized to a heavy extent here. It's because we have a big fascist element here in the States, and I don't think they have the same massive element of fascism in France like they do in America, but maybe I'm wrong. In any event, yeah, I don't necessarily know that what goes on in France could be characterized as anarchy. I've always wondered, like, how do you how do you square away the fact that violence creates kind of like a hierarchy. You know, violence kind of creates a hierarchy of the violent creators, and you have the people subject to the violence. And so it makes you wonder, like, how can you call some sort of violent insurrection or something like that? How could you call it anarchist? And anarchy is like a real political philosophy that is a real social structure and political philosophy. And I don't know how, I've never understood how people could say, like, you know, they're anarchists when they're going to go commit violence. And so that's always been something I never really understood. But that being said, I still think what goes on in Paris, you know, I was thinking about, like, where could we move in the world away from the fascism, and I was thinking Paris. I was thinking France really is probably where I want to go. They seem to be kind of combative against that kind of thing. So, all right. Anyways, uh, but it's a little crazy for me. I much prefer a peaceful situation. I'm not really wanting to live in a revolt. Okay. But I would just say, like, you know, if the world went totally fascist, then I would say, like, okay, well, at least France, you know, you have like some sort of combat against it. But that being said, I don't know if you did that kind of thing here, if it would have the end result that it has there. I feel like here it would just awaken the fascist hordes that sit in America, and I don't know. All right, so in my other book, I that's that. In my other book, I was reading about Clanlands book. It's right here, by, by Sam Hugan and Graham MacTavish, and they were talking about Milford Sound, and Graham MacTavish was saying that he was reminiscing places he'd been in the world that were comparative to Milford Sound, and he said there's really nothing he could think of. Maybe the Grand Canyon was one of the ones he thought of, or it was Grand Canyon was something that took his breath away, I think he said, and he was comparing it to the taking the breath away at Milford Sound. And I would like to see Milford Sound. It's where they filmed all the Lord of the Rings movies and stuff like that. So they were just describing it in the book, and it made me say, like, ah, there's another place I got to go. I'm really big into going to places with incredible landscape. You know, it's just like the artistry of the earth. It's like the universe's artistry, or you could say it's the Demiurge's artistry. I don't know, but you know, that gets into like the idea of the Demiurge or something, and so it makes you wonder if, like, you know, even if the Demiurge is a little bit crazy or foolish, they still have a spark of genius, don't they? So yeah, and that reminded me of something else I was going to talk about the other day, which is like the idea that humans are afraid to become gods, and we should take into account I think if you take into the Gnostic idea that the Demiurge was a little bit of a foolish god, and there could be other gods above it that are, or not above it, but surround it that are more sane or whatever. And it makes you think, like, if humans are becoming gods and we're becoming creative, we're creating life, we're messing with life, maybe we should on some level, because the life that was created as it is on Earth today was a little bit crazy. And maybe humans, having lived as humans, can become in the image of the God. That's what the God itself said, supposedly, in the Christian tradition. And so then you say, like, well, if humans can become godlike or gods, then they can be a little bit more knowledgeable about what life means for mortals and what life entails. And so, we have to, if we are going to become godlike, we have to really take respect of, like, that there's a lot of responsibility with comes with being godlike creatures or creative beings in the universe. And so we have to be mindful of those things and not just be stupid or psychopathic or uh, limited in our judgment. So, yeah, I don't think we should be afraid of it, because we could potentially be making life better in the universe. Maybe we have our creative way that we can put a stamp on life. And yeah, so I don't think we should be afraid of it. Well, we should be afraid of it, but I don't think we should be afraid to the point where, like, we totally disregard our capabilities of creating. All right, that being said, go on to the next topic, which is this plane crash and Trump. Before there was even an investigation coming out and making statements against DEI and stuff like that. And now it's creating this whole fight on DEI, and it just seems to me that that is part of the game of the Trump thing. Is like, the DEI thing is like, keep it focused on diversity, equity, inclusion, but disregard a whole nother aspect of a problem of reality, of the real problem with reality, which is that we are in a competitive based world order, like a violent competitive based world order. And this violent competitive based world order is causing us to compete for resources against each other to the point of nuclear annihilation or warfare around the world, or trashing of the planet for money. And billionaires questing to become trillionaires, like Elon Musk. He's probably going to be a trillionaire one day. He's already at like 400 billion or something, I don't know. And so it's like, they're questing to become trillionaires in the middle of when people are starving to death around the world, or people are baking and freezing to death on the street in America. And so, yeah, it just, if Trump keeping the fight on DEI, we'll just we'll fight about this forever, I guess. And I actually personally think DEI is better than not having DEI. I just view it as kind of like a band-aid to the problem that we have as a civilization. And American DEI is a band-aid. And that's not to say you don't apply a band-aid when you have a wound. And so, I mean, like, if you're going to ask me, like, who would I rather have, I'd rather vote for liberals than Trump. But I don't think I just think that this game that they're playing with the DEI is like, it's beneficial to liberals and it's beneficial to Trump fascists, and it keeps the ball in this like ping pong match between them. And yeah, so I don't think it's good for like Bernie people or anything like that. And so, yeah, I guess I'm gonna stop here because it's been about 15 minutes. And when I say Bernie people, I don't know. That's what I think. But goodbye.